Okay, so this one is about the Dear Public Servant letter. So when we think of public servant, it cuts across a whole array of positions. It can go right up from the Prime Minister to Minister to Member of Parliament, Senator, to even, like bureaucrats, APRA, those kind of boards, any government advisory body, like you can choose which one you like, to people in the hierarchy in departments, right down to employees, even council as well, mayors, counsellors, CEO, the whole gamut can all get covered by this. So yeah, it can be sent in two ways as a standalone letter for anyone who's looking to dip their toe and do something that stands for moral principle. It's like if you know there's a crime being committed and you walk past it, that makes you complicit. So if you have that consciousness where you don't want to be complicit, you want to call it out, here's a really quick and easy way to do it. It's based on facts that have been researched on the particular way that the correct system was set up for us to live under, where the people are in charge and have the levers of power over their public servants. So this explains it to the public servant. So as you can see, you've got your details here in the top right. You go down to their details in the left. I've covered that in the previous two. I also had to change the color back to black when you're done with the edits. So I'm just going to go and read a couple of sections of this just to give you an idea of some of the things that are in there. So we're going to talk about these few paragraphs here where it says our English Commonwealth Constitution preserves and protects the voluntarist way of life, as it serves as the agreed set of boundary conditions necessary for people to live as individuals interacting with others on a voluntary basis, whilst ensuring that no one person's individual rights are transgressed. So that's a critical thing there, because that's what we're all innately born to want to live like, right? And so why would we want anything else? And then we set up a correct system that would actually promote that. And that's what we're explaining to these people who pretend like they are public servants. This is another important one. It says the political party system, along with the accompanying voting process known as adult suffrage, was deliberately created to deceive and dilute the more direct rule of law. So that's how we actually had the direct rule of law, is how we had direct influence over anything that public servants, the legislative branch of public servants, created that may affect our lives in a negative way. We actually had the final say on that. There was a true system in place, and they hid that through creating political parties, and then made themselves as superior to the people, and therefore, hid, I guess, how the ruling class really dominates the people. That the institutions, by usurping the institutions we the people created to serve us, they took them over in a very cunning and deceptive manner, and most of the people are unaware of that. So we're explaining it to them exactly how it's supposed to be. This rule preserves the inherent ability of the people to shape the character of society directly through the jury. In our proper system, there is no requirement for politics, that's a big statement right there, or the imposition of policies to dictate moral behaviour. A lot of people don't understand that. Policies are not for that, right? We're not animals. We're not made for that treatment. Because we have a moral compass, so you cannot have someone dictating their policies to you, especially if they're not in alignment with your moral compass. That's not preserving individual rights. That's actually creating a slave class. It is not the role of the administrative system of service to involve itself in the minutiae of our daily lives. Another important paragraph is the one here that I'm about to read. Law is supposed to be defined in the negative, the apophatic. You can do anything you like, except doing harm to others. This leaves an empty, vast space of possibility and freedom for the people, and law is dealt through intent and not outcome. That's a big statement. So what that means is we don't sit there judging the guilt of someone based on what they did. It's if they had an intention to cause harm. And it's in the moment we do it that. We don't have a pre-prescribed way of how we go about that, and that's what legislation tries to do. It's a one-size-fits-all, which is communism. The purpose of legislation is to create a procedural process for delivering quality services to the people, and at a minimum, those processes must stay in alignment with the people's collective conscience in order to serve its intended purpose of meeting the people's day-to-day needs in alignment with their shared values. So there you have it, guys, just some really simple stuff You can read the whole thing for yourself. It's got a lot of details, about 4 pages, that really explains the true nature of what a public servant is meant to be. I'm just going to read this one here. For public servants to utilise legislation as a means to impose their personal moral standards upon the people they are sworn to faithfully serve is by definition, should I say, institutionalised treason. Geez, I'm doing all the words. Treason akin to despotism. So that's another critical one. It's got stuff about Magna Carta in it again. So, this basically, if you haven't figured out what Magna Carta is, it's just a set of standards that assesses whether government is legitimate or criminal. That's all it really is. It's nothing confusing. So if you think that's a bad thing, then obviously, this is not going to be for you. But if you reckon it's important to have a set of standards that we can all recognise when government becomes criminal, and then a way that we can prosecute them for that, well, this is what this does, and it explains it to your public servants.